Well, we just concluded the 20th IISS Shangri-La Dialogue and an intense weekend of defense diplomacy and very constructive defense diplomacy. Of course, one of the themes that always animates a lot of the debate here is the relationship between the US and China. We had Secretary Lloyd Austin speak on Saturday morning. We had his counterpart General Li Shangfu this morning. And I think what we saw was an attempt to at least make sure that the temperature doesn't rise further at a time when the direct relationship, the direct contact between those two ministers is perhaps not as direct as people would have liked. We know that the Chinese defense minister had 11 bilaterals, but he didn't have a bilateral with the US secretary. They had an encounter, but that's not quite the same. Another important theme was perhaps the presence of the Europeans in this dialogue. We had 6 full defense ministers here from Europe. We had the Prime Minister of Estonia here, Prime Minister Kallas, and they all made important contributions. They all stressed how security in the Euro-Atlantic region and security in the Pacific region are really interlinked, and how they are common and shared interests and challenges to deal with. I think they try to underline how, for example, Russia's war of aggression against Ukraine is really a challenge to the rules-based international order that affects nations here in this region as well, and they try to stress that this is really something that should bring us together in defense of that rules-based order. And they said once or twice, defense is not escalation, and that was a message they left us here to ponder at the IISS Shangri-La Dialogue. The presence of these European ministers was certainly very welcome here in the region. I think it's fair to say, though, that their message resonated in different ways. There were some delegations from the Indo-Pacific region who perhaps did not really share that sense of the war in Europe being something that they would engage with in a very direct way. A couple of delegations pushed for early negotiations on terms that will be very unacceptable to Ukraine. The defense minister of Ukraine was here as well, but they will also be unacceptable to Ukraine's partners in Europe. So it perhaps underlines that while there is a strong narrative that stresses the linkages and the connectedness of this security situation here and the security situation in the Euro-Atlantic area, views are not yet entirely aligned on how to tackle these challenges.